Yeah, just 1 minute and we'll be live.
Sure, sure. Ah,
This is great.
Clubhouse is room is also activated. I'll ping some guys in the room
We are live
so
on
that
YouTube now.
they can join.
Unbelievable.
Are we live?
Yes, we are.
So, hi, hello, Michael Gilmer.
Hi.
Welcome to this, interesting workshop session on history of domain monetization. Michael is co-founder at ParkLogic, parklogic.com. It's a domain monetization platform. And today we'll be talking about history of domain monetization. And I'm also eagerly waiting for this session actually. So we are live in Clubhouse also. We are live using YouTube also. I'm waiting some fellas to join Clubhouse as well. So, Michael, welcome.
It's great to be here. I'll tell you, Jay, it's fantastic that you've organized something like this. And it's such an honor and a privilege to be here. And I just want to just thank you very, very much for that.
So, I hope do you have some slides as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want me to get stuck into things, I can get stuck straight into it and I can share my screen.
Before showing slides, I'm just curious to know. I mean, how big is this domain monetization market is excluding domain selling? How big is this?
Oh, it's really big. Like if you it's consider about 30% of all domains are being purchased for an investment reason, and a big chunk of those domains are being purchased by people wanting to monetize the traffic going to them. So we're talking about a lot of domains, enormous numbers of domains. But more than that, to give an example, we have about 4.5 billion requests per day hitting our servers, and that's a lot of requests.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and so it's every single day, and it's just hitting one after the other. And so we've got a massive server farm and everything to handle the volumes of traffic. And that's why I get so excited about this. Like I've been in the domain industry for a couple of decades now, and I started out in the early days, basically monetizing traffic, and it was, and I went from there, and I built up my own portfolio and so forth like that, and then I ended up founding ParkLogic 14 years ago. So we're the second oldest domain monetization company in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've been doing this a long time. We work with really typically high-end professional domain investors.
Yes, yes. So it was wonderful talking with you at the NamesCon this year.
Oh, that was
I mean,
great.
it was quite, a pleasant accident actually.
Yeah.
And after that talk, I can say, see, there is a saying, one apple a day keeps a doctor away, right? But after talking to you, I can say one click a day keep your renewal fees away.
Correct.
Do you believe that?
Yeah. So when we're talking about domain monetization, and we'll look into the slide shortly, but a lot of people think that they need to have huge volumes of traffic. No, we have a rule which is if you've got one unique visitor per day, then that's classified as a traffic domain. Just one unique visitor. Why? Because you can do the math and you see that's 365 per year. You get about a 20% click-through rate. That makes it about, call it 70 clicks in the year. And if you're getting like 12 cents a click or something like that, then you've paid for your domain renewal and you've made some profit. So it can be easily done. And we've seen clicks anything from between like points of a cent up to like $100. They
Yes.
typically, yeah, so in that huge sort of range. So it'd be nice to get that $100 click, wouldn't it? Then it pays for more than just one domain's renewal, pays for a lot. Yeah, because that's quite often the thing that kills a lot of domain investors is the renewal fees. Yeah, and because they just mount up. If you've got 1,000 domains, then you suddenly got like a bill of about $10,000 a year, roughly speaking, in renewal fees. And
Yes.
you've got to come up with how to pay for those renewals. And people sort of selling domains. Yes, you can sell domains, of course, but you may as well monetize the traffic, because with monetizing the traffic doesn't mean you can't still sell them. Yeah, you can do both. Yeah, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people really miss. Yeah, the other thing I think that people misunderstand is they think that domain monetization is dead. It's not. It really isn't. It's just changed, and we'll take a look at that with the history. They'll go through in a second. It really has changed, and I get that all the time. You go into name pros or something like that, the forums, and people say, "Oh, domain monetization is dead. It's dead." And I'm scratching my head because we've got clients doing like over $500,000 a month in revenue, and it just from we monetize their traffic for them, and that I get other people say, "Oh, it's dead." I'm going, "You gotta be kidding me!" Like, there's huge amounts of money being made here, and so it's definitely not dead. It's quite often the mind of the domain investor. They think it's dead, but it's not dead at all.
Yeah. Hi, Paul. We are live on Zoom as well. You can check out urbanskill.com/live. I'm doing Clubhouse also by putting my mobile phone near the speaker. So I'm kind of promoting this webinar in Clubhouse.
Yeah, that's great. I must admit, I really do enjoy Clubhouse, and I go into Clubhouse each morning as I'm on my rowing machine. I've got my headphones on. I'm listening to it, and there's some really good people talking on Clubhouse. Yeah, and some people have been around for quite some time.
And I also have seen couple of 5-figure sales on Clubhouse, and couple of 2-figure sales going on, kind of rapid fire sales or $50 sale. I mean, somehow it is, I mean, keeping the space somewhere. I mean, somewhere we are, what we can say, like, because of Clubhouse there is space in domaining. Do
Yeah,
you believe?
yeah. Pacing of domaining, you're saying, or the basics of domaining.
I mean, pace. I mean, it is speeding up because
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
Clubhouse.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely the case. What Clubhouse I think is doing is bringing a whole lot of new people in,
Mhm.
and the thing I always look at is how long someone has been in the industry before I really start to listen to them. That's the one thing I would give advice to.
Yes.
I've heard some people, for instance, just recently, where I saw some people and they're acting like they're experts in the domain industry, and they've been in there for like 8 weeks. Yeah, and it doesn't compare to someone like a Colin from Dot Club or something like that, or other people have been in it for like a long time. Yeah, they've seen a lot of things. So that's the only thing I would say, is that just be aware of that. And the other thing I've seen just recently is people are starting rooms, and what they're doing is they're getting a whole lot of people coming join the room, and they talk about, say, domains, and then they bring someone else in and they promote what that person's doing, and I think they get
Okay.
paid for it. And
Yeah, that is a
I've been in a room like that, and it was really odd, because it was very clear that they were promoting this other person's products and everything like that, and I'm thinking, hang on, that's not what Clubhouse is all about. Like, it was a bit odd, yeah. So, but there's been some attempts at monetizing, so you got to listen to you got to be discerning when you're
Mhm.
listening to the different speakers and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you give such a platform to people, people will definitely use it for
Yeah.
their own purpose, and that can be anything. I have couple of guys promoting their network marketing schemes over there,
Yeah,
MLM. I have seen those kind of schemes also, and I have seen couple of good sessions also on various topic, on
yeah,
domaining, on digital marketing, social media, startup funding, etc.
yeah, yeah. There definitely is some great topics over there, and the thing I always do is I look at a person's fruit. In other words, are they really an authority on the topic they're talking about? And I look at that and I make a judgment call, and if I think, yeah, this person's really got some interesting things to say, then I love listening to them. Like the other day, I was listening to Mark Zuckerberg,
Mhm.
and that was fantastic. And there's other times when Elon Musk has been in there, and there's been some tremendous things. Or I've heard Rick Schwartz talking on a variety of different topics about domaining, for instance. And so there's been some really high quality sort of ideas being floated and things like that in those sessions. I've enjoyed them. Yeah,
So
but
we can start with
sure,
slides. Yeah.
not a problem. Can I just say, like, once again, I just want to say thank you very much, and for the opportunity. And what I'm going to be taking people through is a journey I've actually been on.
Exactly.
Um, and I first started back in the 1980s in bulletin board systems. Some of you may be a bit early for you in the 80s. Bulletin board systems were before the internet. You do things such as I'd be sending email around the world by bouncing the amateur radio signals off the ionosphere. And it used to take about 2 days for an email to get somewhere, and then you get 2 days to get a reply back again. And I used to think, oh my gosh, that's so fast. That's incredible. Nowadays, we sit there, we go, refresh, refresh, refresh. Have you got it yet? Refresh, refresh. Have you got it yet? Like this. And we expect everything so instant. And then I went from there, and uh, I remember I launched an ISP out of the back room of my house, and I ran banks of modems and things like that. And I used to charge $5 an hour for internet access. And that was just a money making machine. I must admit, that was really good. It was great. But anyway, yeah. So I did internet access there, and they developed a whole lot of interesting technologies. But by about 2001, I bought my first domain for investment purposes, and the thing I really focused on was, unlike many people, I focused on traffic, not domain sales, although I still do domain sales, but I focused on traffic. And the reason why I like traffic is because it creates a reoccurring revenue stream. My wife always says, Michael, I love the $100,000 deal, but you know what I like more that'll happen one day? But you know what I'd like more than the $100,000 deal that may happen one day? The $50 is it comes in every single month. Yeah, and that's what monetization is all about. It's just that reoccurring revenue. And so I built up a great big portfolio between 2001 and about 2007, 2008, and a big portfolio of domains. And it was a great time. And in about 2007, I launched Park Logic with my business partner, David Gibbs. I got him involved, and he's got a fantastic background as a management consultant and so forth like that. We've known each other for years. And anyway, so we launched Park Logic at that time, and it was all about how to optimize domains. And so what I'm going to take you through now is my journey in the domain industry and how it relates to monetization. So I'm just going to share my screen with you guys, and hopefully this will work here. Okay, can you see that there?
Yes, yes, I can see that.
Okay, great. All right, then. A couple of things I should say, that if you have any questions or anything like that, then feel free to just to pop them into the list, and we can take a look at them as we sort of move forward and everything like that, and capture them at the end maybe. But anyway, so the history of domain monetization. Okay, so one of the other things I didn't mention was that I used to be the vice chairman of the Australian Internet Industry Association, and I was part of the team that developed all sorts of policies with government on privacy, cybercrime, and so forth. And plus, I was actually chaired the online advertising task force where we set the standards for internet advertising in Australia down here. I should mention something to my Indian friends though, and that is this. Um, I believe that cricket wasn't too friendly for Australia. So this past summer, and the Indian team beat Australia. But let me tell you, when we meet again, it may be different. So there's a warning there for you. But anyway, so let's take a look at traffic monetization. Okay, so what is traffic monetization? Really what it is, you have a bunch of advertising aggregators. They've got great pools of advertisers, the Google, Yahoo, Bings, and so forth. And then you've got these traffic aggregators, which are like, typically speaking in the past and also now, they're the parking companies. They've aggregated traffic. And right in the middle here is the domain investors. And what the domain investors did was they developed a unique skill to be able to find traffic domains. And so it's like a match made in heaven, to be quite honest with you. You got the advertising aggregators, traffic aggregators, and the domain investors. So I spent all my time in the early years as a domain investor working on better ways of finding domains and so forth. Okay, so one of the best analogies for I think for traffic monetization is to think of it in terms of the gold rush, the Wild West in the Yukon or something like that in Canada or in California. And it really is a good picture of it. And what we're going to be taking a look at is a journey of technological improvement and what's actually occurred during that time. So back in the early years, you go along, you have traffic going to a single parking company. It would display some links on a page. You hope to get a click and ultimately a payment. And that's really what you want. And that was the fundamental. Then some of the pages looked a little bit different. Like, you remember Netster? That was really not typically a domain monetization company, but it still had the same sort of essences of it. Then the pages looked like this back in 2004, or like this in 2006. Then there's this beautiful page came out, and this is clearly a pseudo page from the years gone by, in about 2008. By the way, this page failed dismally. It looked beautiful, but it just didn't work. The monetization went way down on this page. I remember being at a conference one time, and one of the parking companies, the CEO of the parking company, got up and he was showing about these wonderful things the platform can do. And I put my hand up and said, guys, like, all I care about is a click. If this helps me to get a click, I'm in. If it doesn't help me get a click, I'm out. It's as simple as that. That's why it's called pay-per-click, PPC. Yeah, so in the end, they got rid of a lot of their features because it just didn't add to the revenue line. Okay, so then we went back to simplicity again, where it was really simple, something like looking like this. And nowadays we have something basically like this. This is an example of a pseudo page, once again, and you've got a series of categories here. The people or keywords people can click on, and they get through. Or this is an example. I think this one is from Parking Crew. If you click again, then you'll end up with some links that click on some advertising. Now, a lot of domain investors, they complain that these pages look ugly. I don't care if they look ugly, as long as they generate greater amounts of revenue. I've become very mercenary about this. And so you look at a page like this, you say, oh, that looks terrible, Michael. Like, look, it's underlined, it's not beautiful, like bold type and everything. Trust me, there's been so much study of this, that this is a page that just works. There's been so many A/B testings. I remember there was a page many, many years ago by a company called Domain Sponsor, and it was a brown, horrible page. It looked like it was broken, falling apart, and all that sort of stuff. But let me tell you one thing for sure: it performed better than every other template, every single one of them. So I kept on saying, don't take that one away. So if you're looking at this and you go, oh, that looks terrible, who cares? What looks good is money in your bank. Okay, so let's go back to the gold rush now. So we got these guys in the gold rush, and we're looking at technological improvement. So we saw the early days, what it looked like. Then we began to get the first levels of optimization. And the first level was to improve the click-through rate. So you had an option of 1 versus 2 click landers. So you'd have the traffic coming to a parking company, and you have a 1-click lander or a 2-click lander, which is like I showed a minute ago. It went to a page of keywords, and then based upon the keyword it was selected, it would put some advertising up, and we're still after that click. And there's pros and cons to both of these. Sometimes you had a more generic domain versus something very specific. And the generic domains really work better with the 2-click landers in particular. All right, then someone said, you know what, rather than trying to just scrounge around with our hands to be able to find some more gold amongst all this, why don't we go along and invent a thing called a gold pan? So they got the equivalent of domain gold pan out. And then what people did was they had traffic going to all different DNS servers and everything like that. And the DNS servers were connected to all the different parking companies. So they would say, let's try it Parking Crew. Let's, for a while, test the results. Let's try it Cedo. And they'll be changing the name servers of their domains. And they try, say, I don't know, Voodoo or Bodus or someone else. And they try all these different companies, and they see all the different results. They then would say, okay, we want to click, get a payment. They have a great, big, massive spreadsheet. And trust me, I was one of the guilty ones doing this back in the day. And massive spreadsheet. I collect the data every single day for every single domain, work out who's going to pay the most for my traffic, and I would then change the name servers once again. And this became really cumbersome, and it was fraught with danger for a lot of reasons. And one of the first reasons here is that as soon as you're changing the name servers, you're routing all the traffic to a particular parking company. And what then means is that you're not getting the same periods of time. Yeah, so that was problematic. So that was the first evolution. Then someone invented the equivalent of the domain sluice. There's a sluice just here in the water for the gold rush. And the sluice they invented was the rotating system, or a rotator. And what a rotator was that traffic came into a system. It then automatically split the traffic across the different parking companies. And you're hoping to get a click and a payment. And there's an automatic feedback section, which will then route the traffic to the winning parking company the next time traffic came through. And they would do sampling for a period of time and so forth like that. Now, this introduced a whole new concept, because what you want to do is compare one company to another. And so what people were looking at previously was what's called an RPM, or revenue per thousand visitors. And it's actually a very misunderstood metric. So if you look up your stats at your parking company you may be with, you'll see a thing called RPM, and essentially it's revenue divided by uniques, or revenue divided by views. Everyone calls it a little bit different, but it's revenue divided by some sort of number there at times 1,000, and that's RPM. Now the problem we have though is right here is this whole uniques, because everyone counts uniques differently. Everyone has different filters. So Cedo has different filters to Parking Crew, to Bodus, to Smart Name, to Voodoo. They're all different. They're all counting uniques differently. In fact, in years gone by, some of the parking companies, what they did was they more aggressively filtered the uniques to strip out different traffic. And that artificially increased the RPM. And they then had marketing material which said, we pay the highest RPM in the industry. and a whole bunch of quotation marks, silly domainers, if you ask me, swallowed that marketing pitch and they moved to that company and so forth like that. But it was just playing with the numbers, because all that company did was just filter the uniques more. And this really occurred because there's a lack of standards. And like I said, uniques varied from one parking company to another. So now let's take a look at a thing called a normalized RPM. So remember, the rotator was splitting the traffic. We need to have some way of measuring across all of those different companies. So what you have is revenue divided by URLs, or raw traffic, and N is normalized RPM. And what this allows us to do, this metric allows us to accurately compare one parking company versus another parking company, because we know the revenue they generated. We count how much traffic comes through our system that we sent them. And so we can count the traffic, we can count the revenue. Therefore, there's no unknown numbers here. And so we're not relying on someone else's filters and that sort of stuff. And that's a really important innovation. And that occurred quite a number of better. For us, we just started first doing this 14 years ago, because up until that point in time, there was no way of actually working out who was the winner in terms of parking companies. So to be effective, a normalized RPM needs to be calculated in comparable, statistically significant periods of time for every revenue source for every domain. Every revenue source, every domain. So if we sent 5 pieces of traffic to Cedo for a domain, we count those 5 pieces of traffic, and then we find out how much revenue it's generated. So that gives us a normalized RPM. By the way, this is a part of the formula we use internally in ParkLogic for the RPM, the normalized RPM. So if some of you are thinking, that looks a bit complicated, that's a simplified version of it. There's a lot of moving parts to a normalized RPM. And when you really dig into it, there's a huge amount of stuff in there. But it's something that we actually dig into a lot internally. Okay, so we're now going through some more evolutions. And the next evolution is the introduction of direct advertisers. So there is the traffic went to the rotator. Then sitting in front of all the parking companies, we now have direct advertising networks. So global direct advertising networks. And the parking company, the best parking company, is essentially the floor price in a real-time auction. So traffic comes in, a real-time auction is had, the winning direct advertising company gets the traffic, but they must be paying more than the best parking solution. And if they're not, then it goes to the best parking solution, and the click, you hope you get a click, a payment, and there's the real-time auction system would occur, go straight to a payment as well, and across the top is an automatic feedback loop, so you can actually begin to work out where to send the traffic. Now, once again, this is a really big shift. And to be exposed to direct advertising networks was a massive increase in revenue for a lot of companies. The first company that really started doing this in a major way was a company called Sindori. And I remember we partnered with them in the very early days, and worked very closely with them. But anyway, so what's happening presently? Nowadays, rather than a rotation system, what we now have is algorithms, very, very sophisticated algorithms. And to give an example, at ParkLogic, we track over 200 different metrics every day for every single domain. So we're tracking like billions of data points. And we're massaging all this information together so that we can work out who is the actual winner for this particular domain at this particular millisecond in time. And the whole goal always is to try to extract that revenue, the maximum amount of revenue. Yeah, so it looks all very complicated and everything like that from clients at ParkLogic, it's really simple. They change the name servers. We do all the work. We do all this stuff. But I just want to give you a picture of what's actually happened with from a historical perspective. Pardon me. So some of the other interesting things is a direct advertising introduced was the concept of an average price. If you think about it, the earnings per click, or EPC, is in cents. So if you had looked up your domain stats, you said, oh, I'm getting 5 cent EPC, or 5 cents per click. The question I have for you is, if a direct advertiser offers you 7 cents, should you take it? And remember, the direct advertisers are a spot price, which is a point in time at that millisecond, versus an average price, which when you look at your domain stats, is typically across 24 hours. So it's 5 cents across 24 hours. So here's the interesting question. Should you take the 7 cent offer? Let's think about this average price, though. It's actually made up of 3 clicks: a 1 cent click, a 5 cent click, and a 9 cent click. So remember, that's the average price here. So if you look at this just here, that price here at the 5 cents is made up of these 3 numbers. So the challenge then for working with direct advertising networks is, yes, we should take the 7 cent offer, but only for the 1 cent and the 5 cent payment, only for that type of traffic, but not this one. We spent about 18 months working on this problem. It's actually not a trivial problem to work on. And we took a long time trying to pull it all to pieces analytically. And people have said to me, so Michael, what's ParkLogic's core competency? It's analytics. That's what we do. We do this day in, day out. And we pull apart the numbers, and a lot of people get scared about. We have literally billions of rows in our database of tables. One of the happiest moments in our life is when an Excel allowed us to go to like 1 million rows. So that was fabulous. So pulling these sort of things apart, these questions, is where we get value for our clients. Okay, so is all this technical mumbo jumbo and this whole gold rush thing, is it really worth it? Is it really? That's the question. So this is something from, I'm not sure, some of you may not know this, but every week I do a video. And a video is a snapshot of what's happening in the domain monetization industry that previous week. And this is one of the charts from there. It's from the 1st of January, 2020, until I think it was last week. And what this chart is, where does the revenue go? This is the percentage split revenue, where the blue line is Google and the red line is direct advertisers. And when we look at this here, you can see the percentage of revenue that comes from direct advertisers coming close to 40%. By the way, just to let you know, just before COVID, direct advertisers were about 55, 60%. It does flick across between one and another. So let's imagine you're trying to monetize your traffic and you do not have the direct advertisers in your revenue mix. Then you're losing out on a lot of revenue. I can just guarantee it right now. By the way, just on that, even though the direct advertisers were paying nearly 40% of the revenue, they're actually only buying about 20% of the traffic. This is the traffic split compared to Google and Blue. So you're getting paid a lot of money for a little bit of traffic, and that's a great outcome. Now here's the chart which I absolutely love. This is the normalized RPM. Remember, normalized RPM allows us to compare one versus another. The blue is once again Google. The normalized RPM since the beginning of January until this last week, and the red is direct advertisers. And you can see that Google really accelerated through COVID, but it's been relatively flat. But the last, I don't know, since September, well, the direct advertisers have been gaining more and more and more across that period of time. And one of the problems the direct advertisers had, and why they fell off the edge of a cliff just here, was that that they had a problem. They lost the travel segment because no one was traveling. They lost like a lot of the finance segment because people were borrowing money. And so they lost a number of key market verticals. But they've now replaced them. And I'm just wondering what it's going to look like when they really come back on stream with those other key market verticals of travel and finance and so on. But you may say, well, okay, Google's paying so much more. You need to look at the axes. Google's on the left axis. Google normalized RPM is like points, and the red guys are using the right-hand axis, the direct advertisers. So let's put them on the same axis. That's Google down the bottom. They're on the same axis on the right-hand side. I've made them use that one. And direct advertisers are paying a huge amount more than Google. Yeah, so that just brings up the point where direct advertisers, you really got to have them in your mix. So this is comparison of since if we said like the 0 point for the normalized RPM was at the 1st of January last year, how much has it gone up or gone down and so forth like that during that time? Google definitely has increased it by about 600%, but they may have gone from like 0.1 of a normalized RPM to like a 0.6 RPM. But the direct advertisers have actually slipped down. They're starting to come back as we saw, but they went from like a 5 to a 3. So there's still more. But just when you're comparing against themselves, it just doesn't look as much. Okay, so the question I get asked all the time is, which is the winning parking? Which is the best parking company, Michael? I get asked that question on a daily basis. And my response is, for which domain at what millisecond in time? So here's some real data for 4 different parking companies. And the colors mean nothing, by the way. If you're thinking green, Cedo, no, they mean nothing. Now, there's a few things you'll notice about this. This is the percentage of traffic actually won by these 4 parking companies. A few things is none win more than 30%. What this means is if you've got all your domains with a single parking provider, you put everything with Parking Crew, for instance, the maximum they'll win is 30% of the time. That's the best case. In other words, 70% of the time, your traffic would get paid more elsewhere. And that's why when we looked at the history of domain monetization and with the algorithmic stage, it's so important to get direct advertisers and have some algorithms which are switching the traffic from one place to another. So next thing is there's a huge variability. There's a lot of variability in this, in these different parking providers. Everyone wins all the time. So you may get a domain which will move from one company to another company to another company as the algorithms move the traffic from place to place to place automatically to extract that max amount of value. So I never say that there's a parking company which loses all the time, because it's not true. They always win at some point. The other thing is, if you're going to run a traffic test, it's impossible to do it accurately unless you've got systems in place, and we have massive servers and so forth like that. Okay, so like I said, all parking companies are good at different points in time. There's no one that's winning 0%. There's no one winning 0%. Yeah, so which is really important. So which is the best parking company? The question to ask yourself is, at what point in time and for which domains? And because it moves all over the place. Okay, some more other interesting information I think you'd find quite interesting. This is actually a case study of a real client. They took their traffic and they didn't do anything with it. And then we began to, I think it was optimizing around about here, and it went upwards, trended upwards. And then they wanted to re-baseline their traffic. So we had to put it all back to where it was before. And then we did full optimization again. So is all this really worth it? In the end, the client achieved a 52% uplift in their revenue. So that's a big number. Yeah, so if you look at the revenue you're generating from your domains And you think, okay, 52% more, that's going to be pretty good. We work at PackLogic with anyone who does at least about $500 per month currently. We work with the high-end domainers typically, but if you've got $500 a month you're generating currently with your domains, then we're very happy to work with you and turn it into a bigger number. Okay, so here's a even more interesting chart. This is the same portfolio of domains. And what this is a breakdown per level of traffic compared to the baseline. So what do these numbers mean? The 80% number is this, is for all those domains that had in the test greater than 80% of the baseline traffic. In other words, you want a good statistical sample, right? Then it gave an 89% uplift in revenue. The reason why it was only 52%, which is down here, is because there's a whole lot of domains we just didn't see any traffic compared to the baseline which was provided by the client. So you can't optimize traffic if there's no traffic there. Yeah, so we typically look at the 80% mark and above that, and that gives a good indication. So it's an 89% uplift. So all these things are actually really worth it. So coming back to the history of domains and why the gold rush is good. If you have all your domains with a single provider, it's like you're there trying to look for gold in the river just with your eyes. That's what you're doing. You're hoping you're going to generate some revenue. But it could be that you're trying to do some optimization yourself, and that, good on you for doing it. At least you're trying to do something. That's like having the gold pan. So now you've got this new technology, but you're really still just using a gold pan, you know? And then if you're using a rotator, it's like having the old sluice and someone's cranking the handle in the sluice. It's the same thing if you're using a rotator. If you've got direct advertisers, that's great. You've got the bulldozers coming in, and that's fantastic. If you've got algorithmic switching, then algorithmic switching is like drilling holes in the earth's crust 3 miles deep to extract that little bit of gold for your domains. And you're all the time looking at greater returns up this curve. Now, the future, we have a lot of plans for the future, and we're developing new stuff all the time. In fact, we're just releasing something at the moment. We think it's going to give another bump of about 20% or so in revenue for clients. So we're in the final stage of testing for that. So we're constantly working on things there. But that's the takeaways from this presentation. If you want to get further information, go to michaelgilmore.com or Whizbang's blog. That's my blog. And there's a lot of information, a huge amounts. I've been blogging for over a decade. So there's lots of history in there and things like that. There's actually quite interesting things to read back from over the years. Parklogic.com is a good place to go to, obviously, if you're doing more than $500 a month in revenue. But this one I'd like to emphasize, which is MCL.club, is there's I put 12 videos up there right now for you, and the 12 videos are freely accessible. There's no charge or anything like that, and it's all about domain monetization. It goes in depth. It's about, I think, nearly 3 hours of footage, and there's a huge amount of material there. And all you got to do is register, and you're on. So it's I just find that the domain industry has done so much for me, and I'd like to give something back to the industry. But I hope you found this has been quite interesting. The future is bright. Domains are only limited by our imagination and desire to innovate. And there's nothing would make me happier is to hear from you guys. We can do something great together, and that would be wonderful. Anyway, here's my contact details as well. For those of you who are interested, you can reach out to me if you have any questions or anything like that. My Skype and also my email address. But it's been an absolute pleasure sharing with you. Now we're going to throw it open to some Q&A right now. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. You're probably sick to death of slides. There's quite a few in there. And I'd love to be able to hear from you guys and see if we can answer some questions you may have.
Yeah. Hi guys. So you can always ask questions if any. You can type it in the Q&A section, or if you want to speak, I'll allow you to speak. So either way, you can raise hand and let me know if you want to speak and ask the question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael, for such an wonderful and insightful session indeed. I mean, it was like I will call you personally and understand those mathematical equation actually.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to it. And this is what I'm saying is that there's so much to it that yeah, you end up with big mathematical equations and things like that. But I think there's a person has asked a great question: what kind of domains has a good probability of getting clicks and revenue? The easy way to answer that is the first thing is to have traffic. Um, and if you've got traffic, you're more likely to get clicks and also revenue. And but that's the first thing you need is traffic. But some people have sort of said, okay, should I go for finance domains or should I go for gaming domains and things like that? They're all a bit different. Like if you may get like higher value clicks with finance domains, but you'll get less traffic. Yeah, but if you get like a gaming domain, it may have like 10,000 people a day going to it, but it will only get 1 cent a click. So there's all these different things need to be taken into account and considered.
Right. So I have one question. Like, we'll try to understand first the basics of domain monetization. Like,
Yep.
if we talk about domain parking, right? Can you define so that because we have some non-domainers audience as well in today's webinar, so they can understand firstly what is domain monetization and what is particularly domain parking, because they should know, they should have at least domain name to park domain,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. If you've got a domain name, uh, uh, um, if you got a domain name, and a domain name parking is another way of saying I'm going to monetize the traffic going to that domain name. And so there's companies you can work with, companies such as I've mentioned already, like the Cedos, the Parking Crews, the Botuses, Voodoos, and so forth. And you can change the name servers on your domain. And if that domain has any traffic to it, and the user sees a page full of links and they go click, then you start earning money. It's called pay-per-click revenue. And those links are provided by Google on the page. And Google loves this because they make a lot of money. And what will then happen is that when the advertiser pays Google, then Google will then pay the parking company, and the parking company will pay you. And everyone takes out a little bit of margin on the way through. I remember my very first domain I bought, it was bigpap.com. And the very next day, someone clicked on one of the links and I generated 10 cents. And I thought, oh my gosh, I know exactly what I need to do with my life now. And that is get more of these and get more lots of 10 cents. And I just kept on building bigger, more and more domains that had traffic, that people clicked on ads, and just kept on doing that. And now, if you're sort of saying to yourself, well, couldn't I just click on my own ads? That would be great. Well, number one is there's no benefit for the advertiser. Number two, you get caught doing that, you may get kicked out of the industry. And Google will do that by blocking your accounts and stuff like that. So don't do that. Or don't go along, buy traffic and send it to your domains. If you do that, it's called arbitrage. And if you're buying traffic and send it to your domains, then it's very risky. There's very few people who do that and do that well. They really focus on quality traffic. So be very careful with that, that sort of thing. So you get a domain, you put it with a parking company. Now, what Park Logic is I'd like to think of it as a meta parking company, is we sit on top of all of them. So you put your domains with us, and what we then do is we work out which one of those companies is going to pay the most for your traffic. So that's why when you work with Park Logic, you actually work with everyone. You work with all the global direct advertising networks, you work with all the parking companies, and we manage everything for you. And you don't have to you basically don't have to do anything other than collect a check each month. Yeah. Or payment your PayPal or something like that. Yeah, so very happy to do that. So is there other questions there that
Yeah.
people?
Well, Michael, I have a question. So, what is the top three myths about monetization?
Yeah, the top myths about monetization. The very first top myths, as I mentioned that before we really started, was that a lot of people think that domain monetization is dead.
Okay.
That couldn't be furthest from the truth. Like I've said, we've got clients who are doing like over $500,000 a month in revenue from monetizing the traffic, and it just comes in every single month. It's just reoccurring revenue, and they built that up over a number of years to get to that level, and they kept on reinvesting back in and so forth. Yeah, so that's been great for them. So that's the number one myth. And the thing I'd like to tackle with that myth is this: that as long as there is good quality traffic, there will always be advertisers willing to pay for it. So the question is then, is it good quality traffic? If it's good quality traffic, advertisers will pay. And that's why domain monetization is so good. I think the other myth is I don't have a domain which is doing like 10,000 visitors a day, therefore it's not a traffic domain. No, if you have a domain that has one unique visitor per day on average, then it's a traffic domain, and it should be monetized using traffic for traffic purposes. That's one unique visitor per day on average. Yeah, so I guess there's the two main myths that people get. I guess the other myth is, can I augment my traffic? And the answer is don't do that. When I say augment, just buy traffic and send it to domains, or click on my own links. Don't do that. Is there some other questions?
Yeah, we have Hitesh Wadhwa now with us joining in. So,
Yep.
sir, handing over to you. I think you have, if you you would like to ask something to me.
Hey,
Hi,
how's it
Michael.
going?
How are you?
How's
Very fine. How are you?
it? Doing good, thank you. It's great to see you.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm late. Actually, I was busy somewhere. I was stuck in traffic. So
Oh, that happens.
yeah, that happens. Like correct.
Yeah.
Fine. I have a simple question. Actually, I have got few geo domains on which I have applied AdSense.
Yep.
Okay. So how it will be beneficial if I park my domains with ParkLogic or some other parking company? It will
Yeah.
be
So
beneficial or what? Like, and the
these
CPC.
are IDN domains then.
Yeah, let me complete the question. The geo domains, those geo domains are having a CPC of 100 and above.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, they are mostly
Yeah.
geo domains. Yeah,
Yeah. Geo domains. Okay.
correct.
Geo domains.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So geo domains, from our perspective, it makes no difference where in the world the traffic comes from at all.
Okay.
We'll monetize the best we possibly can.
Okay.
Yeah. So and we really do that. Like, we actually don't mind who monetizes the traffic as long as they pay more than the other person, which means we're very mercenary about this. And so we're always wanting to go along and extract the maximum amount of value at all points in time. So some people sort of think, well, so where should I get my domains from then? Like, where do I source domains from? And I said this in Clubhouse, where when I looked at buying domains while I was building my portfolio and so forth like that, I looked at two things. Two things were the size of the market.
Okay.
And the second thing was penetration of credit cards or an online mechanism to buy. And the reason why I wanted that was that marketers will then complete the cycle of they bought traffic, person comes to their website, they bought the service or product, which means they want to buy more traffic. And that impacts the EPC, or the earnings per click. All right. So I wanted to get as high as earnings per click as possible, and they want to get a big market. So the UK was a great market. Germany was a fabulous market in the early days, even Austria and places like that. India, I love India. I think India, it doesn't have a big penetration of credit cards. It's mainly a cash-based economy still. But it's got a massive population, which is going online, as you guys know. So I own domains such as roti.in. which is it's a nice domain. Daru,
Okay.
alcohol.in.
DARU.in.
The DARU, yes, .in.
Okay.
I own that. I own a whole lot of
Alcohol.
.in domains. I've had them for about 15 years.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Well, thereabouts, something like that anyway.
Okay.
So I have next question for you.
Yeah.
Guys, how about parking revenue for non.com domains? Do they generate revenue?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first started into the monetization game as such, back in about 2001, I remember everyone was talking, even back then, .com, always talking about .com. And I looked at them, I thought, okay, you can have .com, I'll have the rest of the world. So I made all my money in CCTLDs. I made huge amounts of money in CCTLDs. It didn't mean I'd ignored .com. It means I focused on the CCs. And I think everyone needs to really think about this, is that their own country where you are is a great place to go along and secure domains and things like that have traffic. And I'm not saying don't buy .coms, but there's so many opportunities. Like Brazil. Brazil's a massive market. Don't do .com, do .ca. You look at the European countries, or you look at some of the other South American countries. They're really big countries. Yeah, and they get a big penetration in the internet and stuff like that. So I would definitely focus. I'm a strong believer in the country codes and the CCs. Some of them are a pain in the neck to actually register, but once you just think about it, if it's a pain to register and you crack that, that means all the other people who gave up, you've got a leg in front of them. You're in front of them. For instance, a lot of people don't realize, I think in the next 5 years, Lagos, which is the capital of Nigeria, is going to be the most connected city in the world. Yeah, which is pretty amazing. I was just reading about this the other day. So there's some real opportunities in Africa as well. And we've seen some people who are monetizing like South African domains, and they're getting like fantastic results. They really are, like making big dollars.
Thank you. So we have next question from Kiran Kumari. Where can we check accurate traffic a domain receives? Expireddomains.net figures aren't trustworthy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, there's when you look at in some of the auctions, what they do is they don't actually report traffic figures, they're reporting DNS queries. And it's not the same thing. And so the DNS query may be for bots and things like that. And so you're actually not getting human traffic figures. What I can say is that when you put domains on our platform, what we actually do is report URLs, which is essentially the raw traffic. And then we report views is what the monetization partners report. So you can always see those two numbers. The other thing we do in our interface, very different from other people, we report the actual revenue numbers the domain earns. And in the accounting interface, you can see our commission. It's all transparent. So you see our commission and you go, oh, okay, it earned this, earned $1,000. ParkLogic took $200. I'm paid $800. This would be something like that, yeah. And so you can see it all there. We're 100% transparent in that. So you all your actual revenue numbers, yeah.
Thank you, Michael. We again have another question from Ramzan Ali. Is there any bounce rate in domain parking, like in AdSense? If a user click on ads and after that instantly we leave website, that clicks revenue wouldn't be counted?
Yeah, that's once again a very, very good question. The answer is if there's a click has been registered, then it will be paid for. Now, that being said, we've seen some clicks are like 0.1 of a cent. So it could be that there's no like conversion rate at all with the advertiser. But most clicks, they get a lot more than that, like much, much more in fact. But That's a really good question. So we do see that as sort of like that bounce effect with people clicking. One of the nice things about the direct advertisers is what they do is they see the traffic, they bid on the traffic, and if they win the auction, which takes place in 100 milliseconds, they win that auction, then it goes straight through to the advertiser's website. It goes straight on through, so it bypasses the click. And so you're more guaranteed to get paid for that traffic then. So make sure you have like direct advertisers in your mix. Like I said, working with ParkLogic, you don't have to worry about any of those things. That's what we do.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Now, I have couple of questions to ask. Like,
Sure.
I mean, who can start monetizing their domain? I mean, newcomers can. I mean, if yes, then how much budget or number of domains they need to start with? I
Yeah.
mean, any clarity on that?
Yeah. The answer is no, there's not a number of domains. It's the amount of revenue.
Okay.
That's for a start. So like we have some clients that they have domains doing like $10,000 a month.
Okay.
It just from one domain. It's just one domain.
Right.
Yeah. And in other cases, they may have a domain or it does $1 a month, in revenue. And so it really does depend upon the domains themselves. So what we say to people is this, is that if you've never done monetization before, and you've got like 500 domains in your portfolio, give us a call, get an account or something like that with ParkLogic. We'll open it up for you. Even if normally our cutoff is you got to do at least $500 a month in revenue already. But if you've never done it at all before, we'll open up an account for you. And at least you can see all your numbers for all your domains. And you can say, okay, I don't have any traffic domains, or yes, I do. You see, what we find typically is that the average portfolio, about 20% of the domains are traffic domains. So if you got like 1,000 domains, 200 of them you should be monetizing. The other 800 don't have any traffic whatsoever, and you should take those domains and put them into the marketplaces and stuff. But the 200, you should be monetizing. And that's really important. So if I was a new person to the domain industry, out of portfolio, I'd look at it and say, which of my traffic domains? So put them with ParkLogic, and we'll tell you which ones they are straight away. So which of my traffic domains? Second thing is, which of my domains should be in the marketplaces? Which of my really high value domains? They should be with brokers and things like that to try to sell them. And which domain, just one domain, am I going to build that into a real business and that sort of stuff? Just take one domain at a time. Yeah, and that's what I would do at all points. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, next question is again from Ramzan Ali.
So,
If we have used and EMD domains and
Yeah,
their
you-
CPC is up to $1, then how much clicks revenue will we get? Like in AdSense, it's 65% publisher and 35% for Google.
Yeah, so I think what the person's really trying to get at is what's the revenue share? Just there, like what percentage are they going to get? My answer to that is this: is I remember being at NamesCon and someone said to me, "What's the revenue share, Michael, with ParkLogic?" And I said, "It's 90%. We take 90%. They take we pay out 10%." And he goes, "That's ridiculous. That's too high." I said, but wait, I didn't tell you something. We increase your revenue by 100,000%. So underlining that question is another one, which is, will I get paid more? That's the question. And the answer is, what we find is, yes, you get paid more when you use an algorithmic switching system like we have with the direct advertisers, all the parking companies on board and so forth like that. So the answer is yes, you'll get paid more. That being said, we typically speaking, unless you're a really like a very big domain investor, we would pay out between 75 to 80% of the revenue we paid out to you, typically speaking.
Okay, so we have next question from Vinesh Bhaskarla. Do Park Logic consider domain age when accepting for parking?
No, not at all. No, we don't look at that at all. What we care about is if the domain has genuine traffic and real humans going to that domain. If the domain has genuine traffic, then it can be monetized. If it has bots, it can't be monetized. If it's got arbitrage type traffic, then you'll get knocked in the head too by the advertising companies. So if it's a domain with genuine humans trying to do real things, then it can be monetized. And I don't care how old the domain is. I really don't.
Okay, thank you, Michael, for answering. Handing over to Hitesh sir again. So, sir, do
Sure.
you have any questions? Hitesh sir, are you there?
I don't think he's there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, there he is. Okay, here he's back again.
Can you hear me, Divya? I mean,
Yes, 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 we can hear you.
Yeah, there's been
okay,
another
okay,
question there, which is actually a really good question. So domain parking
right,
monetization
right.
method
Domain
only work.
parking, we have domain parking monetization method only works for domains which have lots of traffic only. Does it?
Not true. Not true. And like I said, um, we count a traffic domain as a domain has one unique visitor per day. That's not a lot of traffic. One unique visitor per day. And the reason why is because if you look at that across a year, that's 365 people to that domain on average for the entire year. You do not need very many clicks and very much revenue to occur in order to pay for the renewal costs and then make profit on a domain like that. So a lot of people think you need lots and lots of traffic. That's not the case. The vast majority of domains have small amounts of traffic like that, but you just have a lot of domains doing that. If you got a lot of domains doing that, then you can generate a whole lot of revenue. And that's the thing, is you just need more domains. Like when I bought my very first domain, I got 10 cents, sort of click the next day. The thing that went through my head was, I just need more of these. You see, because at 10 cents, if I could average 10 cents a day, that's $36 roughly a year. It cost me, call it back then, about $8 to register the domain. That's 450% return on my investment. Yes, it's only a little bit of money, like around, I think it's around like $25 profit or something like that, or $30 profit. But if I can have 1,000 of these domains doing that, that's suddenly a lot of money. Yeah. So, but if I have 2,000 domains or 3,000 domains or 4,000 domains, and I just keep on increasing and reinvesting back in, I remember I got to the point in my early days that I actually couldn't spend my money fast enough. That I was earning more money per day than I could actually spend on domains. And that was a really unusual situation where I was finding so many, looking for domains or traffic all the time. And I built systems for doing that and that sort of thing. So I would encourage you, please, if you got a portfolio and you say, I've only got a little time to do traffic, try it out. Like, try monetizing your traffic. But remember that curve, that whole history of domaining curve, that's very important, is where you're going to put yourself on that curve. If you put all your domains with a single parking company, then you're down the very bottom of the curve, versus say someone like a Park Logic is. We've got very sophisticated technology underpinning all of our clients' revenue lines and so forth, and we've been doing it for a long time. Anyway, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think Jay sir will be joining us in few minutes because he has got some problem with the. So I have a next question for you till then. Please, suppose I have big pockets, then what do you think? What kind of category domains should I choose?
Which domain categories? It's better, rather than think of domain categories, think of it in terms of which of having domains with traffic. You just need to have domains with traffic.
Okay.
That's what you need. It's not about categories. As I said before, if you go to the games category, you may be getting a lot more traffic, but it'll be like lower earnings per click. Well, if you get like a finance domain, you may have very, like, let's imagine like a home loans type thing. It's low traffic, but it's more per click. You'll get paid. So it really depends. My rule of thumb is stop worrying about that and just find domains with traffic, because that's the fundamental. And you get those domains with traffic, and you can really move forward then. Yeah.
Okay. So next question again we have from Ramzan Ali. Could you please tell me the best domain parking companies which pay good? I tried Bodhi's, he didn't pay anything, but I switched it to Cedo. They paid $0.9 in a month.
Yep. Okay. As I said in my presentation, I did actually a slide on this to answer this exact question. So if you're putting all your domains in a single parking company, you're down the very, very bottom of the return model for domain monetization. You really are. That's where you are. If you put all your domains with Bodas or all your domains with Cedo and stuff like that. By the way, great companies. Love the companies. Know them all personally. We've been working with them for 14 years, those guys. But you're right down the bottom of that curve. So I would not recommend doing that. I recommend, of course, I'll say this, could be with ParkLogic, because then you're getting access to algorithmic switching. Your traffic's getting exposed to direct advertisers. There's all those sort of things. Like, it could be you're still not going to generate any revenue. It could be that situation, but at least it gives maximizes your opportunity. So in one of those slides I had was that if you have all of your domains with a single parking company, the best case scenario, I mean, the best, is that your traffic could be paid more for it 70% of the time. 70%. That's a lot. In other words, you can get more money for your traffic 70% of the time. So don't put, if you're sitting there and going, should I put all my domains with one company? Don't do it. Just don't do that. It's not a good thing to do. We've got all the data to prove that. But I hope that answers that question. And like I said, the other thing that's important about that slide I showed is that all the parking companies win all the points of time, which means that they're good at what they do. Like, they develop some intellectual property and things like that. But what's better is to have it so your traffic automatically switches between the best one at that instant. Hi there. Back again.
Yeah, back again, actually. Yeah. Okay, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Is there any prediction engine from where I could predict the revenue of any domain? Like, if I want to just post a domain to your ParkLogic, is there any prediction engine, like, from where I can basically predict that how much revenue I would earn?
Yeah, once again, that's an excellent question. Is a way to predict the revenue for a domain.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if you want a really good rule of thumb, if you took an average domain, I'm talking about, I've picked a domain from the finance category or something like that. No, not that. Just on average, then you go along, say, like about a 20 normalized RPM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, think of it in those sort of terms. Sorry, that'd be a bit high. So that 20 RPM. So if you've got a domain, the first thing is you're going to have traffic. Okay, and if you got traffic to your domain, mm-hmm. And you can be confirmed in say ParkLogic or something, then you see all the data straight away anyway. Look, my advice to people is this: get your portfolio, monetize it, just put it all with one company. Just do it for a week. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Just do it for a week, and then you know straight away the answer to those questions. Correct. Because you can see straight away, here's the traffic numbers coming in. And then you'll say, okay, I've got, out of my 100 domains, here's the 20 I'm going to keep on trying to monetize the traffic. Here's the 80 I'm going to put a dan.com or squad help or something like that. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So you can do that straight away. And it's so simple to do. And people sort of say, well, what happens if I miss out on a sale? We put a banner at the top of every page that can be linked to Squad Help or Afternick or something like that or whatever. Of every page says this domain is for sale.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can still be selling the domain. There's no reason why you can't be doing that. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely it answers my question.
Yeah.
Yeah, any question from your side? You're
So,
back.
what was the question? Last one.
I asked him, is there any prediction engine that related to, which
Okay,
can
okay,
basically
okay,
predict that that the domain can earn?
okay, okay. Is there any, Michael?
Yeah.
Is
I
there
should
any?
say one thing just before you ask that. One thing I did do is that you can go to like to Alexa, for instance.
Okay.
Alexa's top rankings, and you look at the .coms. They have all this basic .coms in their list, right? And if you're going to buy like you can get a co-UK version of that domain name or something like that, assuming you're not trademark infringing and stuff. And all you'll do is just divide it by the population, and you'll get a rough idea of the traffic levels. Yeah, so so if you're buying a .co.uk or .de version, because that can be quite a good model for finding domains for traffic. Go to Alexa and just migrate, instead of putting .com at the end, just put the country code at the other end.
Okay, like further to my last question, last I asked you, like, how much budget should I have? Okay. Now, I mean, how much budget should I have to start with parking or monetizing my domains, excluding domain selling, right? Now, reverse question is, right? Suppose I want to earn, let's say, $10,000 a month,
Yeah.
or $100K a month. Then what kind of domain should I invest in? And do they really worth my ROI?
Yeah. Once again, great question. I started off with $100.
Okay.
$100 I started off.
Okay.
And I bought one domain. And I had no money at the time. And that's a longer story why I didn't have any money at the time. But and I just reinvested back in each time. I reinvested, and you get compounding effects. And what I find, a lot of people, they go, oh, gee, I've only just earned $2 a day. That's not very much. I can't even buy a McDonald's Happy Meal for the kids or something like that. Yeah. And they get a bit disappointed. But if you keep on at it, then suddenly it goes to $4 a day, and then it goes to $20 a day, and then it goes to $100 a day. And at about $200 to $300 a day, I tell you what happens is all of those friends that said you should go and get a job, they start asking you how they can get into it. And how can I buy these domain names? And then it goes to, well, that happened to me anyway. Then it went to $500, $700, $1,000 a day, and just kept on going up and up and up from there. And I was making more and more money. Yeah, like that. And what did I start off with? $100. So that's to answer the question. Now, what you can do, now these are hard to find. You can buy, some people are selling portfolios of domains. And so you could go along and buy a portfolio, and they typically go for about 24 months revenue. So to answer your question, if you have, if you're saying, I've got a whole lot of money to spend, I want to earn $10,000 a month, then it'll cost you $240,000.
Okay.
You spend $240,000 and you'll have a $10,000 a month revenue stream. Of course, you've got your renewal costs and stuff, but you'll have that. And those portfolios do exist, and there are people that sell those. And so you can buy those sort of domains. And so they come around. The thing to look out for is there's two different types of domains in this space. Well, actually three. One is called direct navigation. It's from traffic which people typed in the address bar, and the domains just get a lot of that traffic, and they're just like gold, to be quite blunt with you. Then you've got the other ones which are just link-based traffic. Okay. So one website's linking to the domain, so the traffic's coming in, but what happens is that link goes away.
Okay.
And the traffic will go down. Yeah, so you got to watch out for that sort of thing. And the third type of traffic is arbitrage. And please don't do that. I just wouldn't recommend it unless you really, really, really know what you're doing. It's very risky. You can actually blow a lot of money and lose a lot. So the other thing is to think in terms of, if you see, some people sort of see like a new product, new fad or something like that's coming out, like a new fashion, then they can buy the domain name. So it's not trade markets or anything like that. They buy the domain name, and you know what? It starts growing traffic. It just starts growing, and that sort of thing as well. So they're the things I would look out for. So you pay about 24 months revenue roughly. For pure link traffic, it's a little bit less than that. It's probably about 20 to 22 months.
Right.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, yes. Okay, I have another question to ask. Like, see, we are domainers, right? And some of the digital marketers also attending this session, and we are live on Facebook as well, right? So we people know what is parking look, what is, domain parking page looks like, right?
Yeah.
And suppose, I mean, for new user, for newcomer, for non-tech savvy people, what goes behind their mind when they see a parking page?
Oh wow, yeah. That's a $1 million question. Um, what most people think is, oh, I'm on a page and I'm trying to find Bali holidays, and there's a link there which says Bali holidays. Oh, I'll click on that.
Okay.
And that's what they do.
Okay.
We have 4.5 billion requests to our servers every day.
Okay.
That's a lot of people doing this sort of thing.
Right.
So it's a lot of traffic, and that's just growing all the time. So people have said to me, like, what happens if everyone becomes smart and they don't click on a page or something like that? I said, well, our data shows it's the reverse.
Okay.
People are clicking all over them. And let me tell you, because I got 4.5 billion reasons why. Very well. Thank you very
That's
much.
true.
Okay. See, there could be millions of domains using parking revenue, right? Okay,
Uh,
and there could be some domains which has no meaning at all, which doesn't have any keyword within that domain, like travel, like local sites in Brazil, right? Then how that algorithm works? I mean, how that ad engine decides which ads to show to the user? Because if that algo doesn't work well, then there could be no clicks. Am I making sense? Like,
I think we lost him.
okay.
We lost him. We lost him.
Hey there. Hello. Can you,
Hello.
Oh,
Yeah, we can hear you, but we can't see you. Yeah, now we
yeah,
can see
yeah.
you.
okay, so we've come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really interesting question about this. So I think you're just asking like how much would it cost to invest and things like that. I think that a lot of domain investors, they're used to spending like a few $1,000s or something like that on a domain name because they want to flip it. I must admit, I have a general rule of thumb. I never go and buy something unless I've already sold it. Because you want to know that you're going to be selling it. And I remember my wife said to me one time, she said, the problem with big domain sales, if you've got a portfolio of 1,000 domains and you've got and you're selling those domains, um, the challenge is you don't know when you're going to sell something. You don't know how much you're going to sell it for. You don't know all these different variables. So it's really hard to plan unless you've got scale. For those people who have real scale, then that's different. So you don't know those things. And I began to crunch some numbers on this, and I found that the stock turn, or the sell-through rate, I think some countries call it, for the industry is 0.42%. So if you've got if you've got, say, I don't know, 100 domains, then every year you should be selling 0.42 of them. If you got 1,000 domains, you've got to be selling about 5 domains a year.
Okay.
You got 1,000 domains. If you're selling less than that, it'll only be one of two reasons. The first reason is because you've got not good enough quality domains. No one wants to buy them. And all you do is look at how many inquiries you have. If you're getting no inquiries in your domains, then no one wants to buy them. So I don't care what SBot says. I don't care about what anyone else says. The market has said those domains are worthless. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no inquiries, not within reason. Okay, there's no inquiries. But the other reason why you may be selling them and getting a 0.42% sell-through rate is because your prices are too high.
Okay.
Okay.
And I have a rule of thumb of this: is if you've got a stock turn domain and you're selling for like $1,500 for this domain, don't try to turn it to a high value domain sale. It's a $1,500 domain. Just sell it and move on. Yeah, get on to the next domain to sell the next one. That's the business model. Don't try to turn a $1,500 inquiry into a $20,000 deal. Find out you missed out on a $1,500 sale.
Right. Right.
Yeah, don't do that. Like, be very clear what your business model is. So you've got these, say, 5 domains in your portfolio, high value domains. They should be selling like $50,000 or something like that, or whatever. And then you've got a whole lot of domains which are for traffic monetization. You want to monetize the traffic on those, and you know exactly which ones those are. Then you've got a whole bunch of domains that are just stock turn. You want to be above 0.42. If you're not above 0.42, you're behind the industry standard, the industry average. Which brings up another point. If you crunch the numbers, the domain sales industry is underwater by $436 million a year. So there's a lot of people holding domains and paying all those renewal fees, and they're going to the tune of $436 million a year.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time crunching those numbers. They'll be roughly right. Not exactly right, pretty close. So when you the new DTLDs, and some of them are, I put those in Clubhouse this morning. Someone's saying, "Oh, you got to be buying these domains. You got to be buying these domains." Why? Registry, of course, it's going to be telling you to buy the domains, and they'll be trying to get you excited. You got to buy this new .property or something like that, or .tattoo or whatever, and because that's their job, is to convince domain investors to buy the flipping domains.
Right.
But the chances of you actually being able to sell them is quite low. So don't go get upset if the registry goes along and says doesn't do any marketing for their extension. What do you mean? They've done the marketing for their extension. They've sold it to you.
Right.
Why do they have to go and do the marketing out there in the real world? Yeah, like they've sold to you. It's your job. Yeah, you can do your own.
Yeah. So my quick question is, right, there could be millions of domain in this parking system, right?
Yeah.
And there could be many domains which doesn't have any meaning, or which doesn't have any keywords like travel, hotel, or anything like that. So how anyone's uh, ad engine decides which ads to serve? Because if there are non-interest based ads, then I have no clicks.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting point. Okay, there's a number of years ago, Google migrated from what's called context sensitive advertising to psychographic advertising. Let me explain the difference. They're great big terms and all that sort of stuff. Context sensitive is, I've got a golf domain, and I'm going to then Google would put golf related ads on there.
Correct.
Okay, which makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. Psychographic is, I've got a golf domain and I'm going to target the person. The person was looking at Bali holidays before. So they go to the domain. I'm going to retarget them with some Bali holiday ads as well as some golf ads.
Golf ads, okay.
So I'll put both in there. Why? Because I want to see, hopefully I can get them to click on the Bali ad at least. And that's retargeting. So we sometimes get people say to me, Michael, I don't like having these porn ads on my domain. It's not very nice. My reaction is, well, then stop looking at porn. Because Google's targeting you.
Okay.
Or someone in your house is looking at porn. So stop looking at
Interest-based ads, contextual ads, right?
yeah. But yeah, so that's then about 18 months ago, Google then began to pay more attention to the keyword suggestions. So if you know a domain is related, like if you had pizzashopowners.com or something like that, then you can put like pizza information up there or something for pizza shop owners. So you can suggest some keywords and things like that. Now Google is looking at not doing something with that though now. They're paying less attention because some people have abused that. They've been putting only high value keywords in and things like that. And Google's got a bit upset. And there's some companies that have been doing that, and they're going to get, I'm thinking, into a lot of trouble soon. But anyway, there are some things you can do. But that was a great question. So I hope that makes sense about psychographic versus context sensitive.
Yes.
So before taking up the next question, Michael, I would take up Anshuman's curiosity over here first. He's watching the YouTube live, and he says that as I can see, Michael is very much interested in cricket. And as we talked of it in the beginning of the session, can we know who is Michael's favorite cricketer in India?
Oh my goodness.
Do you really like them?
Yeah. I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm actually not a really big cricket follower, but I did know that India beat Australia, and I was not happy with that. So seeing the results on the news for the test and things like that, I'm going, hang on a second here. How did we lose this? So I'm thinking maybe next time we'll win. Yeah, we'll see.
But let me tell you, my favorite is Steve Walk. My all-time favorite is Steve Walk.
Yeah. he was great. Like he was very controlled, very measured, and he was a great captain.
Correct.
Yeah, he was really, really good. And that team, there was him, and there was there were some really, really good players. But it's funny when you have a bunch of Americans and they do not understand cricket at all. Right. They say, what's this? A game goes for 5 days and it's a draw?
That's why the T20 has been introduced.
Exactly.
Flat game finishes in flat 5 hours, 5 hours. That's it.
You know what I say to them? I don't understand NFL football. As far as I can work out, you have two teams, they put their head down, they crash, and then there's an advert break. I said, you have so many advert breaks, it drives me crazy. I never get to see the football match. Anyway, that was a good question, though. With some other domaining questions there.
So we have Ramzan Ali next. So is social media traffic good for domain parking?
Yeah, so a few things with that. All traffic is good as long as there's humans. But do not buy social media traffic and point it to your domains. You'll get your DRID banned by Google if you do that. Your DRID is called Domain Registrant ID. Every domain investor has a DRID. And if you do that sort of stuff and you get banned, you'll never get it back again. Google does not unblock them. So whatever you just don't do that. But if you accidentally, if there's some traffic comes across like from Facebook or something like that, that's fine. As long as you're not buying the traffic. It's not incentivized any sort of way. I remember many years ago, I had this guy call me up and he said, Michael, we're going to make so much money together. I'm going, great. I like that. I like making money. That's what I do. You know, said, I can make the click-through rate to be whatever you want it to be. I said, pardon me? He said, yeah, I've written this bot. Program's very smart, and it'll click on the ads and things like that. And we're going to make so much money. And I said, well, hang on. So what's in it for the advertiser? It doesn't matter about the advertiser, right? They'll be okay. I said, no, the whole basis of the domain ecosystem is the advertiser paying for value. Yeah. And those sort of people, to be quite blunt with you, need to be washed out of the industry, because people who want to rip off advertisers means they're actually taking money out of your and my pocket. Yeah, and it's one of the challenges that we have quite often is finding is really doing due diligence on the domain investor when they apply for accounts with ParkLogic, for instance, and making sure that they're a good person. Yeah, they're a good person in the industry. And if they are, when we really like to work closely with people to try to maximize their revenue. But if they're not, then we get rid of them very quickly. And anyone who does fraudulent behavior, if we discover it, we will never pay them their money. Never. I'll just say that again. We will never, ever, ever pay for fraudulent behavior, because it then reinforces that business model. And we don't believe that's good for the domain industry. The domain industry is built upon an ecosystem which is really fundamentally underpinned by advertisers. Yeah. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. Thank you for answering. Now, next question we have from Kiran Kumari. What should be my strategy to invest in traffic domains for parking purpose if I want to earn the renewal cost of say 300 domains of my portfolio annually?
Yeah, so you do the mathematics for this. If you got 300 domains, then you've got roughly a $3,000 spend per year, roughly speaking. Okay, you can get cheaper than that and stuff, but roughly. So if it's $3,000, how much is that per month? That's about $250 a month. So at $250 a month, you need to earn in your monetization revenue. All right. So then it's how much traffic. Then it's about, say, if you're working call it even a 10% click-through rate, you need 2,500 pieces of traffic from those 300 domains, which is roughly speaking, one unique visitor per day on average. And that's how I can back out the numbers, and I can just do it pretty quickly. If you got one unique visitor per day on average, you're likely to pay for your renewal fees.
Okay.
And that hopefully makes it easier for you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. For next question we have from Vinesh. How do ParkLogic manage bot or anonymous clicks? I have been using bodies and suddenly they blocked or flagged my account saying self clicks.
Yeah. Okay. So there's we block bots and things like that. We do that. And so just with that, if you're clicking on your own ads, trust me, we'll know. Just don't do it. And if you're being accused of that, it could be that you just got a bit tempted one time. I'm not accusing you, but you could have got tempted. Just don't do it. Just whatever you just keep clear. Like I get people all the time saying to me, "Oh, I was looking at the ads on my domain and I didn't like them." I'm thinking, don't go to your domain because your IP address is tracked. Everything about you is tracked through, and everyone knows in the whole ecosystem from Google right back. We all know exactly what's going on there. Don't do that. So, and that's why someone like Bodus, which Bodus is a great company. They'll say there's self clicks because of this reason. A classic example. I'll give you something really simple. If we've seen the same IP address clicking on multiple domains, that just doesn't happen in real life.
Right.
Just don't click. Don't click on your domains. Yeah, just don't do it. Or don't get your family to click. Don't get your friends to click. Or don't get the school down the street and say, "Hey, I'm going to go pay all the kids like a dollar each to click on some of my domain." Just don't do it. You get caught, and then you can get banned forever, and then you no longer can monetize traffic in the domain industry. Yeah.
Okay, Mike, is there anything how not to be tracked or caught?
Yeah, it's really simple. It's really simple. Don't incentivize anyone to click. Don't
Right.
pay anyone to click. Don't click yourself. Don't buy traffic for domains, and you'll be
Right.
good.
Fine.
Do the right thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
just think of it. If you're the person buying the traffic,
Yeah.
then you want to get value. If you're not getting value, then don't do that behavior. You know what I mean? So if you're not providing value to the advertiser. Now, I did a talk at NamesCon on traffic quality. In fact, if you go to mcl.club or masterclasslessons.com, the very last lesson, I just published it, I think it was last week. It's on traffic quality, and I talk all about traffic quality. It's
Right.
actually a really interesting topic. We're about to release an index for our clients. So every single one of their domains is ranked on a traffic quality scale, and their account is ranked on a traffic quality scale, and they can compare it against the industry average. So where they are. So if their quality is much better than the industry, that means their domains are more have a higher value because they're less risky as an asset. Yeah. So there's a lot of things can be done there. Okay. So
Yes, we have next question. If
yeah.
I have 10K traffic per month from social media sites, how much revenue can I expect from domain parking?
If I have 10,000 traffic per month from social media sites, how much revenue can I expect from domain parking? The first question I'd ask is, how are you getting the 10K traffic? If you're getting the 10K traffic because you're publishing the domain and all that sort of stuff on social media, trying to encourage people to click across, then don't do that. You should never do something to promote your domain. So is it natural typing traffic? That's the first thing. But if you want to do a rule of thumb, 10,000 pieces of traffic, about a 20 RPM, it's going to give you what's that? Call it 100, 10 to 20 RPM, give you like $100 or something, $100 to $200, roughly speaking.
Correct. Easily you can get 100, $200 for that.
Yeah, exactly. This is roughly like, that depends on so many things. Like what market vertical, depends on a lot of things. So it's definitely that sort of thing is valuable.
Yeah. Okay. So we have another question. Why
Yeah.
there are not display ads on domain landing page than text ads?
Okay. Yeah. So I think that the question is saying, why don't we have like video, or why don't we have banners and things like that? The reason why is the highest paying type of traffic is quite often PPC, pay per click, and you just want to have the pay per click ads, and so the user is directed straight there. You don't want. I would much rather I have a user click on a pay per click ad, which gave me like 50 cents for the click, than to click on a banner ad, which then gave me, say, 1 cent. That's what I'd rather. Yeah. And that's the way Google has traditionally worked in the Google space. Now, that being said, the real-time bidding or the direct advertising networks, the traffic is routed directly to their website, so they bypass the whole click process, which is really good. And that's a great outcome.
Okay. So again, next question. He says that I'm talking if we have a Facebook page of 100K followers and we divert that traffic to our domain.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. You have 100,000 followers. Let me tell you, I think there's some better ways actually of monetizing that. If I had 100,000 followers, what I would do is I'd actually set up a separate page. I would not park it. I would set up a separate domain, and I'd actually build that out into a real destination. That's what I would do, because 100,000 followers is a lot, and I wouldn't send that to a park page. I hope that answers your question. That's what I would not do that.
Yeah, you would rather have content-rich page.
Yeah.
I mean, of same niche, which you have 100K followers, and you'll get good revenue out of it.
Yeah. and then you can grow your user base further. That's what I would
Exactly.
do. Yeah. So I would, like, we're developing some interesting things at the moment where we're developing destinations. And so the domain traffic can get to a destination, and we're hoping to get retention where users sign up and that sort of stuff. And then we track it back to a domain name, and then we give the user, our client, the lifetime value of that user. So if that user comes back, clicks on something and that sort of stuff, then they get the lifetime value.
Mhm, mhm,
And so we have partnerships now in that with Microsoft to providing all of the content and stuff. And we're about to do a partnership with some other big advertising organizations. And the goal always here is to add value for the user. It's a very different process. And if I had 100,000 Facebook followers, I would definitely build out a destination. Like 100,000 people, like you're talking about a good radio station hopes to have that. So it's like, what are they worth? Like, and you can broadcast anytime you like. Yeah.
yeah.
Just the only thing I can think of is make sure they're real
See,
people.
yeah, like I have couple of more questions. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
how about transparency in this, whole parking ecosystem?
Yeah, it's been an issue since the very beginning, is transparency. In fact, I actually spoke about this at a traffic conference back in about 2005, I think it was. Talked about transparency and the lack of transparency in the industry. It's one of the things that holds back the industry the most, is the lack of transparency and the suspicion that domain investors have with say parking companies and stuff. So we made a decision that we would be transparent. And so to that end, when you look at the numbers in our interface, they're the actual numbers of domain owned. And then when you look at the accounting record, it says, like, you earned $1,000 last month, ParkLogic $200, you paid under $800. So you know exactly how much we earned.
Okay, okay.
We display that, and yeah, so we try to be as transparent as we possibly can. But it's a tough. Like, I don't know anyone else that does that. By the way, I don't know any other company which displays how much they earn.
Okay. Is there anything is there any possibility, like, can I implement Google Analytics or similar, tracker in my parking page?
Yeah. So I was asked this just recently. I think it was in Clubhouse, and I said, Google Analytics, why would anyone use it? Yeah, like there is some extreme cases, and I use it as well in some cases. But you think about it. As soon as you put Google Analytics on your page, you're giving Google end-to-end visibility of all your data, everything. Google's job is to be an analytical engine. That's what they are. They just crunch data all the time, right? And so they then know how much they can actually pay you. If you put Google Analytics on your, I know some companies allow you to put Google Analytics on your park page. If you do that, then you're allowing Google to see everything that comes on through. Don't do it. Just like, and even like if you've got a website you're building into a business, and you're buying traffic from Google. Let's imagine you're buying AdWords or something like that. And if you put Google Analytics on your page, Google knows exactly what price to sell the traffic to you for, because they can see exactly with all the data coming through Google Analytics. So why on earth would you do that? Look, use what is it called, WS Stats or Webalizer or something like that. Use there's
Okay.
other sources for analytics and that sort
No,
of stuff.
but how can we implement a Webalizer or a WStats in parking page?
Yeah, no, we actually don't enable that.
Okay.
But what we do is, for every domain and also for your account, you can go in, you can see in our interface, you can see the geo regions. You can
Okay.
see the language of the browser being used. You can see all the refers and everything like that. So we put all this information in our interface, and you get all daily stats across time. So it's all there. So you don't need to do that. I don't know if anyone puts out more information than us. And all of our data, you can pull with an API. By API. In fact, our whole entire interface of ParkLogic has been built using our own API.
Okay.
So you can pull everything. Like there's so much you can pull. And by the way, if there's something that we don't have, you think, gee, that'd be nice to have, let us know.
Right,
Just
right.
let us know. We can see if we can put that in there. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. Divya, that's all from my side. Do you have any question from the audience?
Yeah, from YouTube Live, we have one more question where Puneet Patel wants to know the valuation of venuecard.com.
Oh my God. Valuation.
All right, the valuation of what? Sorry.
Valuation of like appraisal of one domain name.
Appraisal,
I mean,
appraisal of domain.
It's a president of domain.
I
So
think we
you
should
break it
call
up just.
Andrew Rosner.
Sorry.
Somebody wants to evaluate their domain actually.
Yes.
I mean, for this we have to call Andrew Rosner.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I get asked this all the time. Actually, to value their domains. It's funny, that I had this guy send me a list of a couple of thousand domains just recently.
Uh-huh.
He has the value next to them, and he believes they're worth like $10 million.
Mhm.
And I look at them, I'm thinking, you're missing out on a whole lot of information here. Number one is I want to know how many inquiries you've had on every one of these domains in the last 12 months.
Uh-huh.
I'm only looking for sales for start. I'm not talking about for monetization. I want to know how many inquiries you've had, and I want to know what the value of those inquiries are being. Because that can tell me everything. Like you may think your domain portfolio is worth $10 million because you looked up an Esterbot or anything like that or whatever. But you know what? If you have no inquiries on any of your domains, I don't care what Esterbot says. I don't care what any of these comparisons and all that sort of stuff. The market has told me your domains are worthless.
Okay.
Yeah, I just if you've got no inquiries, then you really got to look at them. Like I do this with my own domains. I look at my domains and I drop a whole lot of domains every year because I go, you know what? No traffic, no inquiries. Get rid of these things. Get some different domains.
Okay.
I do it all the time.
Okay. One more question actually. Suppose I'm earning from domain parking, right?
Yep.
Okay. On what parameters I should decide when I get any inquiry for that particular domain,
Yeah. Okay.
because it is very difficult to sell
Yeah.
revenue generating domain. Sometime we be greedy, sometime, or sometime it is genuine thing to keep that domain.
Yeah. Let me tell you, if you had a domain earning $1 a day
Hmm.
in revenue, you can sell that for about $1 a day for about $1,500.
And
Right?
5x, 5x of a
Sorry, I did the maths wrong. 365, about $700,
seven.
Okay.
roughly speaking.
Okay.
Okay.
You know that.
Okay.
You can sell to me for $700, right?
Okay.
Because they're earning $1 a day.
Yeah.
So you know
Okay.
your floor price, okay? Because to a traffic domain, you can sell like that. You sell it on a multiple of revenue. And so on its traffic basis, you know what the domain is worth. Now, the problem I have, and I'm crunching a lot of data on this. Let me see if I got my some notes here. I've been doing a lot of work on this, on valuing portfolios. Here it is. Yeah. The thing I found, and I was listening to Clubhouse one time recently, and someone said, "Oh, that's a $10,000 domain." And I asked a really rude question. And I think everyone wanted to kill me for asking. I said, on what basis is it a $10,000 domain?
Mhm.
On what basis? And there was like silence. Like, who had the timidity to actually ask that question. I said, because as far as I can work out, there's no basis for it, and everyone's just going along and making guesses. But then people say, oh, because there's comparables in the market. That's the worst thing you can do, is to have a comparable. You're trying to sell the whole purpose of a domain is unique. That's the purpose. And you're going to the seller and say, this is unique. You cannot get this anywhere else. This is why you need to buy it. And the next thing you do is you say, and here's all the comparables in the industry, what they sold for. What goes through the mind of the buyer? They say, oh, there's some other ones I can get. I don't have to go for this one after all. So why would you do that? So I would never do that. So I began to think about this, and I'm thinking, well, the average price for a domain is about $1,800, I think, with Afternic or something like that, roughly speaking. Okay. The things that you got to, I would take into account would be the earnings per click rate. It's above or below a particular average for that market vertical. So if I was selling a mortgage domain, and I want to look at the earnings per click rate, that domain. What I'd also want to do is graph on a curve all the earnings per click rates for that market vertical. So you may have homeloans.com and so forth. Graph them on the curve. Put what the earnings per click rates are, and then put, the average point is on that curve is $1,800. So if your keyword combination is less than that on the curve, your domain's worth less. Yeah. So it's worth much less, and so you can actually plot on the curve, and then you can go along and say, if you own mortgages.com, right? That's just off the scale because that's what asymptotes up, right? So it's going to be it's going to be worth a whole lot of money at the top there. So you got that curve, which is really important. In fact, I wrote a blog article on this very thing. The other thing I would think about is, what is the keyword price? So you may have a curve for games. It'll look the same, and you'll plot all your keywords and all that sort of stuff. Is very different value compared to a curve for mortgages. The same shaped curve, but it's a different value. So you can take that into account for the pricing of your domain. Buyer motivation. Let's imagine you've got a very motivated buyer. That influences the value of the domain. Or how about the motivation of a seller? Like this, many domain investors, I hate to say it, the reason why they sell so low is because they have to pay the renewals next month. Mm-hmm. And they don't have any money to pay them. So they need to sell this, they need to sell something. So they're very motivated, so they drop the price. Take a look at the number of inquiries in the last 12 months for that domain. The seller's negotiating experience. If you're a good negotiator, like Rick Swartz is a classic example. He says a 2-letter word all the time. No. Why? He can afford to say no. He's got no pressure at all to sell another domain. And he just keeps on saying no. And he's getting all these inquiries, just keeps on saying no until someone starts to really ratchet the price up. And then finally he says yes at some point. He's very good like that. You also want to look at the traffic levels from the band along that curve, like where it's going. So it's putting all these different metrics together, and you can actually price a domain more accurately. And I just find, particularly when I'm in Clubhouse, where there's a lot of newbies, they're drinking a lot of Kool-Aid, and they think that their domain portfolio that they registered last week, hand registered, is worth $2 million. They honestly believe that. And some of them are mortgaging their houses, and they're getting massive credit card debt and all that sort of stuff to buy a whole lot of domains. And they honestly believe it's worth a fortune. And they're not. Yeah, and that's really sad because they haven't done the maths. They haven't really sat down. Remember I said before is that don't buy something for high value until you've already sold it. And then you can play that middleman in the middle and essentially get a commission, a slice of the action in the middle. It's almost like that, and we've all seen it. For the people who've been in the industry for a while, we've seen a lot of new people come in, they've got burnt, and then they leave. And all they've done is they made all the registries richer and that sort of stuff. Or some of the domain investors, to be quite blunt with you, they sold a whole lot of domains.
Right.
I remember when you remember the Chinese wave came through of buying all the 4 letters and all that sort of stuff. I remember going to Domain Fest in Macau, and I came back from there. I said to my business partner, if we have any 4 letters and 3 letters and stuff like that, we sell now. And we sold out a whole heap, and we made a fortune. I could buy the same domains today for about 25% of what I sold them for. And so there's also a timing factor here. Like, when do you sell domains? I remember in 2000 and I think it was 2007, yeah, something like that, around there anyway. I sold my big portfolio of traffic domains. And the reason why is I actually wrote a blog on this. I said, this is the curve. We're going up here. We're in a bubble, everyone. The pricing for the traffic domains was crazy. It was insane. And I said, we should all be selling out. I wrote a blog on it. We all should be selling out. It's going to go up, and then it's going to go down, and then it's going to go really up. I said, so, but then I remember seeing a domain magazine come out, and I got nervous, like tiny little industry, and a domain magazine comes out. And then a second domain magazine came out. I said, that's it, I'm gone. And I sold out. I sold my whole portfolio, and I just watched then it just go down on the other side. So I sold the peak, went down, and that's where I got my business partner and we bought back in when it went down, and then it went back up again. And that happens. And I think right now, and Clubhouse is particularly driving this. There's a lot of really dumb money. For the smart domain investors, they're actually offloading a lot of their crap onto the dumb money. If you ask me, like, you see some of them there, there's been a lot of like, we're going to run an auction for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Of course they are. They're trying to get rid of their crap, right? All this is dumb money. It's like they're just trying to push it off. Like if you sell a domain for $50, you've made 500% return on your money. All you got to do is do that a lot of times. You can get it up to $500, even better. And like I was in a room the other day, and someone said, "Oh, that's worth $500." No, it's worth at least $2,000. That domain. I'm thinking, no, it's worth this much. It's like, you know what I mean? And you've got some really smart domainers. I hate to say it, they're actually playing this interesting game in there, and they're moving off a whole lot of their domains, and they're making a lot of money in this process. And it's because it's dumb money.
So Divya, do we have more questions? Divya, are you there?
Yeah. Well, she comes back. Can I ask you a question? Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, of course, I do. Yeah.
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 So
It
I'm not
sounds
like it's not just me.
No.
Yeah.
It's bound to happen. The bubble is basically like it's blowing up. It will burst any day.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's right. Right now, if you've got domains, move them now.
Right.
Yeah, you just start moving your domains right now. And it's a horrible thing to say, but there is a lot of dumb money out there.
Right.
And just move those domains as fast as you can. Like I said, I could buy those 4 letters back for like 25% of what I sold them for. And I could probably do the whole thing again in another few years' time. Yeah, it's just, it's like buying Bitcoin, but in a different way. But this is some of the things that I must pay attention to a lot, which is the macroeconomic climate, because that influences the domain industry a lot. Or if there's some big changes, and I do a lot of research in this area. I remember back in, was it 2000, end of 2007, 2008, remember the GFC hit, global financial crisis. And there was a blog article came out by some domainer saying, isn't it great that we're in an industry which will not be affected by this? I scratched my head and said, you gotta be kidding me, man. Seriously? It's like the world's financial system is collapsing and you're saying it's not going to affect us? Sure enough,
Yeah, who is gonna buy your domain if everything collapses?
Correct. Because of course that happened. But the other thing that I found with some domain investors is they don't think of the normal things of business, such as paying taxes. I picked up a fantastic portfolio a number of years ago because a guy needed money to pay his taxes by the end of the week. And I got a great deal. Let me tell you, he needed the money. It was like €250,000, and we got the money to him at the last minute, of course, because we wanted the best deal. But he just didn't have any money for taxes. Yeah. The other mistakes that domain investors do is they don't value their time. They value their time at zero. You can't do that. You got to think about valuing your time and what's your time actually worth. Put a dollar value on it.
True.
There's no such thing as a business. Look, to be quite blunt, if you value your time at zero, that's okay. You're now running a hobby. It's not a business.
Yeah, right.
And that's okay. I don't have a problem with people running a hobby, by the way. I have lots of hobbies. I spend lots of money on my hobbies, and that's okay. I'm good with that. But so don't get me wrong, but don't kid yourself that you're running a business, because you're not. You're running a hobby.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So don't go and value your time at zero. That's a big mistake. That particularly a lot of new domain investors do that. They say things like, "Oh, I wouldn't have been doing anything anyway." No, you're running a hobby. It's just like,
So Divya, over to you. Do we have any questions?
No, we do not have any question, but we have Anshuman Thakur leaving a message from Michael saying that thanks for answering the question on cricket and also lots of love from India.
and lots of love from Australia. Let me tell you, one of the great things, although right now it is 3:45 in the morning for me at the moment, it's good at least you being sort of in my time zone, which is really great. And compared to talking to Americans or Europeans, which is just terrible. So I just want to say thank you guys so much. You inspire me onwards. And on my blog, when I do my sort of stats each week, my video, I do, and I get feedback, and it actually inspires me to keep on doing things.
Right.
I think we're in one of the most amazing industries in the world, and it's so flexible what we can do, and it's filled with great people. It really is. It's filled with really great giving people as well, and they just want to go along and help out others. Like the fact that you guys are organizing this is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not like you're getting paid thousands of dollars to do this, is it? You do it because you love it.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's really special. There's not many industries have people that would go out of their way to the late night and everything like that to do this.
Right.
So thank you.
Right.
Yeah, you should be very proud of yourselves.
So thank you for joining us, Michael. It
Yeah.
was really wonderful session, and we will again, bother you for another workshop or session.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do it. And it's one of the passions of mine is to help educate the domaining community. Yeah. I call it dumb money, but I didn't say it was dumb people. It's just easy money. So, I do have a real passion for that, and to be able to be invited back, it could be my pleasure to come, and I would look forward to it. And see your smiling faces again. Why wouldn't I come?
Sure.
We would like to see you again. And also, I must appreciate your energy at this point of time where you are, where it's 4:45 in the morning.
Yeah, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah. I thought me and Jay are very energetic, but you are more energetic than us, actually. Yeah.
Can I say, if anyone who's been on this call, and anyone who wants to go along and sign up for an account at ParkLogic, can they do me a favor? Just put a note in there saying that they were on this on this training session for the list of domains. Say, I saw you on the history of domain monetization or something like that.
Okay.
If you put it there, then I know that you're a real person then. So, it's quite often we get a lot of spam applications, and I would never want to reject you by mistake or something like that. So feel free to do that, and then I can know. So, but anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much for your time. And feel free to go along and ask me back again. So I'd love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
It
So
was
take care.
our pleasure, actually.
Yeah, bye bye.
Yeah.
See you.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks very
Yeah.
much
Have
for
a,
that.
Yeah.
Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
have a nice and sound sleep.
Yeah.
I will. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, Vinesh. Yeah. Thank you all for watching us.
Yeah. And everybody can wait for another session. So as of now, good night for the day.
Yeah. Good night. Good night.
Signing off.